Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Let me know if you liked Monday's episode. I liked it a lot. A little change of pace, did some different stuff, went a little deeper into comedy than usual. But would love some feedback from you on the Instagram page at Daily Comedy News. So I've been talking about, some of the feedback was like, hey, can you talk about Edinburgh? So instead of late night jokes today, I'm going to take a look at this story from Chortle about the Dave joke of the Fringe. Now, normally, cable channel Dave runs a contest for the best joke of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, but this year it was given out by a guy named Dave. Jordan says, Masai Graham had the best joke of this year's Edinburgh Fringe, according to a bloke named Dave. The winning gag was, I thought the word cesarean began with the letter S, but when I looked in the dictionary, it was in the C section. Masai Graham has won the contest before. He won the official contest back in 2016 with this line, my dad has suggested that I register for a donor card. He's a man after my own heart. The Dave who chose this year's winner was chosen at random in the Royal Mile by comedian Will Mars, who set up the Some Guy Called Dave joke of the Edinburgh Fringe 2021 competition in absence of the usual hunt to cast a light on the hardworking comics of the Fringe. Here are the top 10. Ready did Masai Graham's winner. Number 2, from Ivor Dembina, my therapist told me a problem shared is £100. Tom Mayhew said, me and my ex were into role play. I'd pretend to be James Bond and she would pretend she still loved me. That's a good joke. Adele Cliff, the Roman emperor's wife, hates playing hide and seek because wherever she goes, Julius Caesar. So bad, it's funny. Leo Curse, Marvin Gaye used to keep a sheep in my vineyard. He had heard it through the grapevine. Oh, Ben Clover. Getting a cesarean is dangerous in Russia. If they open you up and find a little girl, they open her up to see if there's another. That's great. Will Mars, my grandparents were married for 40 years, but everything took longer back then. Samir Katz, I think Chewbacca is French because he understands English but refuses to speak it. Rich Pulsford, I don't know what you call a small spillage from a pin, but I have an inkling. Samir Katz, people say zoos are inhumane. That's because they're for animals. Again, keep the Instagram suggestions for topics coming. I'm at Daily Comedy News. Tag on any post. I'll see that you posted something. Lori Terrell White had suggested, check out Greg Gutfeld's ratings per the Daily Mail. Made me laugh. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that. So from the Daily Mail, Gutfeld, did I just say Gutfield? I know I could edit it out. I think I just said Gutfield. You guys tell me. Gutfeld scores 220,000 more viewers than Colbert's Late Show. Wow. The late night comedy scene has a new king of laughs. Greg Gutfeld's Gutfeld unseating Stephen Colbert's The Late Show in total viewership. Holy crap. Fox News' right-leaning Gutfeld also attracted the most pair of eyes in the sought-after 25 to 54 age demographic category. Wow. Last Tuesday's episode of Gutfeld, which, by the way, is spelled Gutfeld exclamation point. Should I yell every time I say it? Maybe I'll start doing that as a bit, which aired at 11 p.m. Eastern, drew in 2.12 million viewers, with about 434,000 people belonging to the key age demographic. Colbert's show had 1.9 million viewers, drawing 423,000 in the target demo. Now, the Daily Mail isolated some Gutfeld monologue jokes. Now, I have not been ignoring Gutfeld monologue jokes. I just source my monologue jokes from the New York Times. You know, they're a bunch of liberals. And the Guardian, they must be a bunch of liberals too. Luckily, the Daily Mail is sticking up for Gutfeld. So here's a Gutfeld joke. I'll remind you, in case you couldn't tell already, I am not a professional joke teller, so it's entirely possible this was a lot funnier when told by Greg Gutfeld on Gutfeld. His joke talked about the Taliban having a gentler approach to the Afghans, and the joke, again, I'm not a professional joke teller, here's the joke. They aren't an enlightened bunch. Not only are they stuck in the dark ages, they prefer everyone else to join them there. Their idea of women's rights is letting her air out of her burqa once a year. However, we've been told by the press this is a kinder, gentler Taliban. What does that mean? They only partially behead you? They only throw gays out of an 8-story window, not a 12-story one? Those are the monologue jokes. Greg Gutfeld's guests included former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill, Townhall.com political editor Guy Benson, Fox News contributor Kat Timpf, and Washington Times opinion editor Charlie Hurd. So it's not exactly Jimmy Fallon's Tonight Show, but hey, people are watching this thing. Greg Gutfeld, the new king of late night. Marc Maron says his longtime friend Louis C.K. is, quote, not talking to me anymore. Oh no. From The Hollywood Reporter, Marc Maron has been pals with Louis C.K. for more than 25 years, but hasn't spoken to him in some time. Maron says C.K., who has embarked on a comeback tour, deserves the opportunity to make a living at what he's best at. Marc Maron himself is back on the road, working to perfect a new 1-hour stand-up special with plans to premiere it in a big way at the New York Comedy Festival in November. Marc Maron told The Hollywood Reporter, "It's been great. I just got back from Denver where I did 5 shows and it's nice to be out there." Asked about CK's new tour, Marc Maron said they're not in touch. He's not talking to me anymore for some reason. But look, you can't deny the guy the right to do what he does and try to make a living from it. All right, this next story normally I would do at the end, but much like on Monday's show, I have some other stuff I want to do in the second half. This is a very serious story I'm going to do next, and it is about Louis C.K., so you may want to get rid of the kids. Are the kids gone? From the Daily Dot, comedian Kelsey Kane, a.k.a. Penis CK, outs alleged sexual abusers on Twitter. Kelsey Kane told the Daily Dot in a text message, "I hope his comeback tour is great." She used the alternate spelling of come, use your imagination, and that everyone there doesn't become one of his next victims. Kane is no stranger to satirizing CK's sexual misconduct. She debuted her character Penis CK in 2018 after CK made his return to stand-up only a year after he publicly confessed to exposing himself to 5 female comedians without their consent. As Penis CK, Kane wears a fiery orange wig with a faux goatee and a black t-shirt. Her costume isn't complete without the dildo that she mimics masturbating with and lets hang outside her jeans for the entire act. Kane calls the character an accurate portrayal of the truth being that CK has returned to the stage and they'd exposed his penis in front of others without their consent. Kane wants to communicate the truth to the audience. Critics of her performance accuse Kane of forcing the character on audiences, which she says is exactly her intention. Kane said, "Sometimes people are like, it's just too much." And I'm like, yeah, isn't it? In July, Kane called out the Ontario Improv for booking Brian Callen. Kane tweeted, "You're making stand-up comedy look bad, Ontario Improv." Daily Dot writes, some of Kane's callouts are vaguer than others. On July 8th, she tweeted that a, quote, sex offender is on a Netflix stand-up lineup and urged audience members to watch their backs around, quote, this person who is known to assault drunk audience members at shows. Kane told the Daily Dot that more than 60 people in the comedy industry have told her that they were sexually assaulted by another comedian and that most of the messages she receives are from women. Men have also messaged her saying they've been assaulted by bookers and higher-ups in comedy. Kane said, "I've listened to different versions of the same story so many times." Comedian Alani Nichelle corroborated her statements about how common sexual assault is in comedy. Nichelle told the Daily Dot that when she hears about allegations of sexual assault or men on the scene being creepy, she's inclined to believe them because of her own experiences. There are some bookers who won't book you if you've basically given the "I'm not really interested in sleeping with anybody" vibe, or if you have a boyfriend or if you have a husband. She added she'd been advised to show a little cleavage in order to get booked, all forms of quid pro quo sexual harassment. Kane said, "I'm scared all the time. I'm sure I'll be attacked in some way for the rest of my life because of what I do." Jen Kirkman said, "The most important of Kane's work is if any other comedians are watching, they know that she has their back if they want to speak out too. I know that she does this kind of work with the intention of making sure that no one feels alone." Today's Daily Comedy News is brought to you by Palace Intrigue. That's the daily 5-minute look at what's going on with the British royal family. Harry's always ticking somebody off. Meghan's always ticking somebody off. Charles is always like environment and kilts, and Kate is just so wonderful. Palace Intrigue, wherever you get your shows. Bo Burnham is not going to be part of the untitled HBO series about the Los Angeles Lakers after all. Bo Burnham was going to play Larry Bird. Weird, right? Well, apparently Bo Burnham no longer involved with the project due to scheduling conflicts. That is, in my opinion, what do I know? Perhaps he really has scheduling conflicts, but scheduling conflicts is usually hogwash and cover up. Like, I'm sure if they said to me, like, "Hey, do you want to be in the new Star Wars movie?" I could probably clear my schedule. You know what I'm saying? Scheduling conflicts. Sean Patrick Small will play Larry Bird. Bird is described as a basketball star who hates the spotlight, preferring instead Budweiser, ratty jeans, and ruthlessly destroying his opponents on the court. He and Magic Johnson, who've been pitted against one another since their legendary NCAA championship duel, continue their rivalry for the next decade. I'm glad we have a plot summary for this. From Vulture, Fred Armisen will join the upcoming HBO comedy Our Flag Means Death. This series is loosely based on Stede Bonnet, an aristocrat turned pirate in the early 18th century. A lot of buzz on this. Part of the cast, New Zealander Rhys Darby from Flight of the Conchords, and Taika Waititi, who also serves as the executive producer and director of the pilot. Waititi will be playing Blackbeard, who is described as a legend, a lover, a fighter, a tactical genius, a poetic soul, and quite possibly insane. From the Laugh Button, Gary Gulman's going back on tour. It is called Born on Third Base. The tour will include all new material as he hilariously chronicles his impoverished childhood on food stamps, free lunch, and welfare checks. Rule of three there, see? You always say this, that, and the third thing. Food stamps, free lunch, and welfare checks while skewering our current Tale of Two Cities-esque wealth gap. From the Laugh Button, Robin Williams, Richard Pryor, and John Ritter are going to be featured in a documentary series currently airing on ABC, Superstars. Superstars examines the lives and careers of various celebrities taken from us far too soon. John Ritter's episode airs August 25th, Richard Pryor September 1st. Robin Williams, we think, will air on September 8th. Met John Ritter once back at WOR Radio in the 90s. We met in the men's room. He was nice. Took a leak together. Cool guy. From the Laugh Button, they seem to really like Rosebud Baker. They said Rosebud Baker is on fire. She killed her spot on The Nasty Show at Just for Laughs this summer. She has a new album released on Comedy Central Digital. It is called Whiskey Fists. Laugh Button says their favorite thing about Whiskey Fists is that as sharp and scrappy as Rosebud is on stage, she still allows for moments of vulnerability in her writing. She does this by pulling from content that is very personal, and her joke about the ex-boyfriend who inspired the title Whiskey Fists is the perfect example of this. Prior to watching her special, Laugh Button said, I had no idea Rosebud had been in an abusive relationship and was thankful to have had the chance to talk about it. She said, I look at him as a sick guy. I have no anger about it. I always think of that Patrice joke where it's like, I've been with this girl for about 6 months. She's been with me for 3 years. I was like the girl in that situation. I was with him for longer than he was with me, but it was about 2 years, which is a long time if you think about how unstable it was. I liked Whiskey Fists as a name because it kind of encapsulates something bad that happened. I was able to turn into a punchline. From Chortle, the West End gets a new weekly comedy club tonight. It's called the West End Comedy Club. If you're in the UK, I hope you downloaded the show as soon as I published it at 3:05 Eastern, because you got a couple minutes to get over to the West End Comedy Club. Tonight's lineup, Adam Bloom, Alex Keeley, and Patrick Monahan. And also, if you're in the UK and you don't go over to the West End Comedy Club, put on Channel 4 at 10 p.m. It is the last leg of Tokyo 2020. The last leg returns to its roots with a primetime show every night of the Paralympic Games. Adam Hills, Alex Brooker, and Josh Whitcomb round up the day's stories from London while Rosie Jones is on the ground in Tokyo. The three main hosts will also be trying out 12 Paralympic sports at the London Olympic Stadium, including wheelchair tennis, kayaking, and blind running. Why am I mentioning this? Because they do this with the aid of guest comedians. That's why it's on the comedy podcast. And a blind item here. A friend shared with me a story about Weird Al. It is not my story to tell, but I just want to continue to emphasize how cool Weird Al is. I heard about something Weird Al did that he didn't need to do, and it was very nice. And I know I'm being vague, but Weird Al, if you're listening, and I know you download the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, one of those you probably do. I know that you did this thing for some people, and it was really cool of you, and you didn't need to do it. And a friend of mine told me that you did this, and I just wanted the world to know Weird Al is good people. All right, that's your comedy news. Be like Weird Al and download the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. If you like what I do, buy me a coffee. My daughter's home from college, and she also drinks iced coffee, so I'm spending like twice my iced coffee budget now. That's like $8 a day. I need some help here. Buymeacoffee.com/Daily Comedy News. See you tomorrow.